I never saw it coming. It was a regular day, just like any other. I had just left a church conference in Texas, surrounded by fellow believers, talking about the goodness of God and the things we had learned. The drive home was peaceful, and I was deep in thought, reflecting on the conversations, the prayers, the sermons. I had no idea that in just a few moments, my life would change forever. The weather was clear, the road stretched out ahead of me, and everything seemed normal. I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't distracted. I was just driving, like I had done countless times before. The hum of the tires against the pavement, the steady rhythm of the road, it all felt so routine. Then, out of nowhere, everything changed. An 18-wheeler, a massive semi-truck, came speeding toward me. It was on the wrong side of the road, and there was nothing I could do. There was no time to react, no time to pray, no time for anything. One moment, I was driving, and the next. Impact. The force was unimaginable. My car crumpled like a tin can, metal twisting and bending around me. The windshield shattered, glass flying everywhere. The steering wheel rammed into my chest, my legs were crushed, and my entire body was trapped. The sounds of the crash were deafening, metal scraping against metal, the violent screech of tires, and then, silence. I didn't feel anything. I didn't hear the sounds of people running toward the wreckage. I didn't hear the sirens approaching in the distance. I didn't feel the broken bones, the cuts, the pain. It was as if I had been separated from the moment entirely. When the first responders arrived, they quickly assessed the situation. My car was completely destroyed. The firefighters and paramedics worked quickly, moving around the wreck, checking for survivors. They checked for my pulse, for any sign of life. There was none. I was gone. Declared dead at the scene. There was nothing they could do for me. My body was broken beyond saving, my heart had stopped, and there was no sign of breath. The emergency crew had other people to attend to, people who were still alive, so they covered me with a tarp and waited for the coroner to arrive. I should have been aware of what was happening. I should have been trapped in that crushed car, feeling every ounce of pain. But I wasn't. Because I wasn't there anymore. My spirit had left that wreckage. I was somewhere else entirely. Soft music plays, peaceful yet mysterious. A warm glow begins to emerge, surrounding everything in an indescribable light. The moment my eyes opened, I knew I wasn't in the wreckage anymore. The pain, the weight of my crushed body, the noise of the accident, it was all gone. Instead, I was standing in front of something so magnificent, so overwhelming, that words fail to fully describe it. A gate. But not just any gate. This was unlike anything I had ever seen. It wasn't made of wood or iron, and yet it was solid and real. It radiated a light so pure, so brilliant, that it seemed alive. It wasn't just shining, it was glowing with a warmth that went beyond sight. I could feel it, wrapping around me like an embrace, filling me with a peace I had never known before. And then I heard it. Music. Not like anything on earth. It wasn't just one song or one melody, it was countless harmonies, perfectly blending together, each note alive with meaning and joy. It was as if every sound carried the presence of something divine, something beyond human understanding. The music didn't just fill the air, it filled me. It moved through me, resonating deep inside my soul, making me feel more alive than I had ever been before. Then, I saw them. People. But not strangers, people I knew. Faces I recognized instantly, even though some had been gone for years. Loved ones who had passed before me, standing there, smiling, waiting. Their eyes shone with a joy that went beyond happiness. There was no pain, no sadness, no burden, only pure, unfiltered love. One by one, they greeted me. There were no words, but I understood everything they wanted to say. I could feel their love for me, their excitement, their welcome. There was no sense of time, no urgency, only this moment, this perfect, eternal moment of reunion and peace. I wanted to stay. Every part of me felt at home. More at home than I had ever felt on earth. But something was changing. I felt a pull, a shift, as if something was calling me back. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go back to the broken world I had come from. But even as I resisted, the light around me began to dim. The music started to fade. The warmth of that place, that perfect place, began slipping away. And then, in an instant, pain. Crushing, unbearable pain. I gasped, my lungs filling with air again. The agony was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Every bone in my body screamed, every nerve burned. I was back. Back in the wreckage. Back in the suffering. Somewhere in the distance, I heard a voice. A man praying. Singing. The words were familiar. What a friend we have in Jesus. And then I realized. I was singing too. The pain was overwhelming. Every breath felt like fire ripping through my chest. My body was shattered, broken in ways I couldn't comprehend. I wanted to scream, but even that took more energy than I had. My head pounded, my vision was blurred, and all I could hear was the distant sound of someone singing. I wasn't supposed to be here. Just moments ago, or at least, what felt like moments ago, I had been in the most beautiful place I had ever seen. I had felt peace, warmth, love beyond understanding. But now, I was back. Back in my crushed body, back in the wreckage, back in the unbearable weight of human suffering. I struggled to make sense of it. Why was I here? Why had I left that place? I wanted to return, to step back into that light, to see the faces of my loved ones again. But instead, I was lying in a broken heap, covered in blood, surrounded by the shattered remains of my car. And then I heard it again. The voice. It was clearer now. A man was singing, and I recognized the hymn immediately. What a friend we have in Jesus. The words filled the space around me, soft yet powerful. And then something happened, something I can't explain, even to this day. I started singing too. I had no strength. My body was barely functioning. I had been declared dead. And yet, somehow, my lips moved, my voice joined his, and the sound of those words left my mouth. At that moment, everything changed. The paramedics who had covered me, who had already pronounced me gone, heard my voice. Shocked, they rushed back, checking for a pulse, looking for signs of life. What they found was impossible. I was alive. The rescue team scrambled into action. It took them an hour and a half to extract me from the wreckage. Every movement was agony, every jolt sent waves of unbearable pain through my body. But I knew something now. I knew I had been sent back for a reason. As they loaded me into the ambulance, I didn't have answers. I didn't understand why I had been allowed to see heaven only to return to this pain. But I knew one thing for sure. I had been given a second chance. The journey back was harder than I ever could have imagined. The ambulance ride was a blur of pain and noise, sirens wailing, voices shouting, the sensation of my broken body being jostled with every turn. I faded in and out of consciousness, my mind struggling to hold on to reality. Every breath felt like fire, every movement like knives slicing through my skin. When we reached the hospital, they moved quickly. Doctors, nurses, bright lights, endless questions. They couldn't understand how I was alive, how I had survived something that should have been impossible. But survival didn't mean I was okay. My injuries were catastrophic. My legs were crushed, my arms shattered, my ribs broken, my internal organs damaged beyond what they thought could heal. They didn't think I would make it through the night. But I knew I would. I had seen heaven. I had stood at the gate. I had felt a peace that went beyond human understanding. And if God had sent me back, there had to be a reason. There had to be a purpose. The days that followed were filled with suffering. Surgeries, machines keeping me stable, doctors working tirelessly to repair the damage. The pain was relentless, and there were moments, so many moments, when I wanted to give up. When I questioned why I had come back at all. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. The light, the music, the faces of those who had welcomed me. I remembered the love I had felt, the joy that had surrounded me. I remembered the overwhelming sense that I was home. And somehow, in the midst of the agony, I held on. The recovery was long, grueling, full of setbacks. I had to learn how to walk again, how to move, how to live in a body that had been so badly broken. There were moments of frustration, of doubt, of wondering if I would ever be the same. But there was also something else, something stronger than the pain. A certainty. I had been sent back for a reason. Before the accident, I had preached about heaven. I had taught about faith, about eternity, about the love of God. But now, I had seen it. I had touched it. I had been there. And that changed everything. I knew I had to share my story. Not just to tell people what I had experienced, but to give them hope. To remind them that this life, this pain, this struggle, is not the end. That there is something beyond this world, something greater, something more beautiful than we could ever imagine. I wrote my book, 90 Minutes in Heaven, not because I wanted attention, but because I wanted people to know the truth. That heaven is real. That God is real. That love, true love, never dies. And now, every time I stand before a congregation, every time I tell my story, I think back to that moment. That moment when I stood at the gate, surrounded by perfect peace. And though I had to leave, though I had to return to this broken world, I know one thing without a doubt. I will go back one day. And this time, I will stay.